Have you ever felt that sudden wobble when you're just trying to walk across the room? That quick moment when your balance feels off and your heart skips a beat? It's a quiet, almost invisible danger creeping up on many women over 60, and I want to share something honest with you. This is more common than you might think, and it's not just getting older. I used to brush it off myself, wearing those cute but flimsy shoes, thinking I was fine. Until one day, I almost took a tumble right in my kitchen. That scare opened my eyes to habits I never realized were quietly stealing my stability. But here's the good news. There's no need to panic or feel helpless. The truth is, with just a few simple changes, you can regain your balance and confidence without turning your life upside down. I'm talking about easy fixes that don't require fancy equipment or exhausting workouts. Just smart, gentle steps you can start today. Stick around because in this video, I'll walk you through 6 surprising mistakes that many women make. Mistakes that might be sabotaging your balance right now, and show you how to fix them in ways that feel natural and doable. These little shifts could make a big difference, helping you feel steadier on your feet and more in control of your life. So tell me, have you ever had a close call that shook your confidence? You're not alone, and you deserve to live well, with grace and independence. Let's take this journey together. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. Now, let's begin. 1. Wearing the wrong shoes. Let's start with something so basic, so everyday, that most of us never even question it. The shoes we wear. Shoes seem like such a simple choice, don't they? We pick the comfortable ones, the ones that look nice with our favorite slacks, or the pair we've worn for years because, well, they feel familiar. I can't tell you how many times I've reached for those trusty old flats, or the same pair of soft house slippers, without a second thought. After all, they've carried me through decades of busy days, family gatherings, and quiet evenings at home. But here's the truth. What feels familiar isn't always what's safest as we get older. I remember growing up watching my mother slip on her simple black flats every morning before heading out. She had beautiful feet, elegant and strong. I wanted to be just like her, so I developed a lifelong habit of choosing shoes that were more about style or comfort than support. And for a long time, it didn't matter. When I was younger, I could walk for miles in nearly anything. A pair of sandals, flip-flops, even bare feet on the cool kitchen tile. My feet just seemed to know what to do, my balance never in question. But something changed after I turned 60. At first, it was subtle. My feet would ache a bit after a trip to the grocery store, or I'd notice a little twinge in my arches after a long day. I shrugged it off, blaming it on the weather or maybe just one of those days. I kept slipping on my beloved ballet flats, convinced I could still manage just fine. But one day, something happened that shook my confidence to the core. I was in my backyard, tending to my little rose garden, the same patch I've cared for since my children were young. The grass was still a bit damp from the morning dew, but I didn't think twice. I stepped onto the path in my old shoes, the ones with paper-thin soles, no tread left, and absolutely no ankle support. I was reaching for a blossom when, suddenly, my foot slid just a little. It was only a fraction of an inch, but it was enough. My ankle wobbled, and for a terrifying split second, I thought I was going to fall right into the thorny bushes. My heart pounded as I caught myself, breath held, cheeks flushed with embarrassment, even though no one was around to see. I stood there, feeling every year of my age at that moment, and it finally hit me. Shoes matter. Not just for fashion, not just for nostalgia, but for safety, real, life-changing safety. I thought about friends who had fallen and broken a hip or a wrist, how a simple trip or slip had turned their whole world upside down. Some had bounced back, but others struggled to regain their independence. Suddenly, I realized I was not immune, no matter how careful or experienced I thought I was. The more I talked to other women my age, the more I heard the same stories. My friend Janet, who always wore those fuzzy slippers around her hardwood floors, ended up sliding halfway across the living room one chilly morning. It could have been disastrous if her coffee mug hadn't landed on the rug instead of her lap. My neighbor Ruth fell down her front steps after wearing old sandals that had lost their grip long ago. Each story made me more aware that what's on our feet does shape the way we move, and the risks we take without realizing it. So, I decided to do something about it. I started by really looking at the shoes in my closet, not just glancing, but really examining them. Some were so worn down that the soles were nearly smooth. Others were cute but offered no arch support, no grip, and nothing around the heel to keep me stable. I remembered reading somewhere that as we age, the padding in our feet, the natural fat pads, starts to thin. Our arches flatten a bit, and the bones themselves shift ever so slightly. The shoes that used to fit just right now felt loose or flimsy. That's when I realized I needed something different. I needed shoes that would take care of me, not just the other way around. At first, I worried that meant trading style for function. Would I have to wear those big, bulky orthopedic shoes I'd always associated with the very old and frail? I didn't want to lose my sense of self or feel frumpy. But then I discovered that shoe companies have gotten much wiser in recent years. There are so many options now that blend support, stability, and real style. I found a pair of sneakers with memory foam insoles, good arch support, and a non-slip tread underneath. They even came in cheerful colors, with a little sparkle on the side, a touch of fun I wasn't ready to give up. The first time I wore them, it was like stepping onto solid ground for the first time in years. My feet felt hugged, not pinched. My ankles didn't roll or wobble. I noticed I stood up straighter, and I didn't dread the walk down my steep driveway to get the mail. I felt more secure, more capable, like I'd been given a small but precious gift. I also learned to look for a few key features in every pair of shoes I considered. A wide, stable sole that wouldn't tip or twist under me. Good traction on the bottom, especially if I'd be walking on tile, hardwood, or wet grass. Some gentle structure around the heel and sides to help my ankle stay in place. I started choosing shoes with laces or Velcro rather than just slipping my feet in, just a little extra insurance. And I realized that slippers for around the house are just as important. Now, I only wear slippers with real rubber soles, a firm footbed, and enough support that I could walk outside if I needed to. Gone are the days of floppy, backless house shoes. It didn't take long before I saw a difference, not just in how I felt physically, but in how I carried myself. I started to walk with more purpose, my steps firmer and more confident. I found myself less afraid of the little things, the edge of a rug, the slippery kitchen floor, and the uneven sidewalk in front of the pharmacy. I realized I was no longer tiptoeing through my own life, but striding through it. Perhaps the greatest change came not from the shoes themselves, but from the sense of control and pride I felt in taking this step for myself. I was no longer ignoring my needs or brushing off my vulnerabilities. Instead, I was caring for myself in a way that was practical and even a little bit bold. I could still wear those pretty flats for special occasions, but now I saved them for when I'd be sitting most of the evening, or when I knew I'd have a friend's arm to lean on. If you're reading this and wondering if it's time to take a closer look at your shoes, I want to gently encourage you, do it today. Don't wait for a near miss or a scary fall. Think of your shoes as the foundation for every step you take, every room you enter, and every new memory you create. You deserve to feel safe and steady, not just comfortable or stylish. You deserve to walk through your days with confidence, knowing you've made a small change that can make a huge difference. And if you're still feeling unsure, remember, you are not alone. We all want to hold on to our independence, our dignity, our sense of style. Choosing better shoes isn't about giving any of that up. It's about holding on to it longer. It's about choosing safety without sacrificing joy. So go ahead, find that pair that supports you as beautifully as you've supported others your whole life. Trust me, Your future self will thank you every single step of the way. 2. Skipping strength training. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. If you'd told me 10 years ago that I should be lifting weights in my 70s, I would have laughed out loud. For most of my life, the phrase strength training belonged to athletes and young people. Maybe the occasional fitness nut at the gym, but certainly not someone like me who preferred gentle walks in the park and gardening in the spring sunshine. I never considered myself weak. I prided myself on keeping up with the grandchildren, tending my flower beds, hauling in groceries by myself, and moving furniture to vacuum under the couch. I believed those daily chores were enough to keep me strong. But, just as with so many things in life, the quiet truth had been sneaking up on me. It started so gradually, I barely noticed. There was the morning I found it oddly difficult to open a jar of jam I'd bought for my grandson. The time I needed both hands to push myself up from the recliner after a long afternoon of reading. Or the moment I realized that climbing the stairs left me feeling winded in a way it hadn't just a few years before. I brushed it off. Just getting older, I told myself. Everyone slows down eventually. But then came a day I'll never forget. I was trying to pick up a full laundry basket from the basement, balancing it against my hip as I'd done 1,000 times before. This time, my arms felt like wet noodles, and the basket seemed to double in weight. My knees wobbled, and I had to set it down halfway up the stairs, out of breath and honestly a little embarrassed, even though no one was watching. That was when a tiny seed of fear began to sprout. What if one day I simply couldn't get up those stairs? What if I needed help with things I'd always done alone? Not long after, my daughter gently suggested I try a little bit of strength training, using those small pastel-colored dumbbells she kept in her guest room. I nearly scoffed. "I'm not training for a marathon," I protested. "I don't want to bulk up. I just want to stay independent." She smiled and said, "Mom, that's exactly why you need it." Curiosity, mixed with a pinch of stubbornness, got the better of me. I started small, holding a can of beans in each hand and following along with a YouTube video she'd sent me. The instructor, a silver-haired woman with a kind voice, showed how to do simple arm curls, gentle squats holding onto the back of a chair, and slow, steady wall push-ups. I'll admit, at first, I felt a little silly. The movements seemed almost too easy. But the next morning, I felt muscles in my arms and thighs that hadn't made their presence known in years. It was a surprising reminder that my body was still capable of changing and growing stronger, even now. The more I read about it, the more I realized how important strength training is, especially for women our age. After 50, our bodies lose muscle naturally every year, a sneaky process called sarcopenia. It happens so quietly, most of us don't notice until something small, like tripping on the edge of a rug or struggling with a stubborn jar lid, reminds us just how much we've lost. The problem isn't just feeling weak. Muscle loss steals our balance and makes every step riskier. If you stumble, strong legs can help you recover before you hit the floor. Weak muscles, though, leave you helpless to catch yourself. Suddenly, the difference between a close call and a broken hip is measured in the strength of your thighs or the steadiness of your core. But here's the most wonderful part. Muscle isn't gone forever. Unlike so many other things in life, it can be rebuilt, little by little. I didn't have to join a gym filled with mirrors and blaring pop music. I didn't even need special equipment. I started doing simple exercises right in my living room while the morning coffee brewed or while watching the evening news. 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there, 3 times a week. That was all it took to notice a change. After just a few weeks, I started to stand up more easily. The stairs became less intimidating. I could carry groceries up from the car without stopping halfway to catch my breath. Best of all, I felt less afraid of falling. There was a new sense of confidence in my steps, a secret strength I hadn't felt in years. My doctor even noticed this at my annual checkup. "You seem more energetic," she said, and I beamed with pride as I told her about my new routine. She explained that strength training doesn't just help with muscle. It keeps our bones denser, our joints happier, and our metabolism humming. It can even boost our mood, something I discovered one gray winter morning when, after finishing my little workout, I felt a lightness and joy that had nothing to do with the weather outside. Of course, it wasn't always easy. Some mornings, my joints ached, and I'd rather have curled up under the blankets with a good book. There were days when I felt too tired or too busy when the chores piled up and motivation was in short supply. But on those days, I tried to remember how I'd felt carrying that laundry basket, how scary it was to imagine losing my independence. I reminded myself that this small act of strength was a gift, not just to myself, but to the people I love, who want me to stay healthy and self-sufficient as long as possible. I wish someone had told me years ago that strength isn't about lifting heavy weights or chasing a perfect body. It's about holding on to what matters: our freedom, our ability to care for ourselves, our dignity. It's about building a safety net with our own two hands and legs, so that when life throws us the unexpected, we have the power to steady ourselves. If you've never tried strength training before, I encourage you to start gently. Use soup cans or water bottles, a sturdy chair for support, or a soft resistance band. There's no competition, no finish line. Just you and your body, working together to stay strong. Even a little goes a long way. And if you feel silly or uncertain at first, know that you're not alone. I felt that way too. But today, when I open a stubborn jar or pick up my grandchild, I'm grateful for every moment I invested in myself. You don't have to become someone new. You just have to give yourself a chance to be stronger than yesterday. The truth is, it's never too late to begin. Your muscles are still waiting, eager to support you. One gentle curl, one squat, one steady step at a time. You deserve that sense of power that lifts your heart when you realize, yes, I can do this, and I will. 3. Ignoring vision changes. I never thought much about my eyesight. For years, I was the one who read the fine print on labels for my husband, the one who could spot a robin's nest high in the backyard maple tree or thread a needle without a second try. Sure, I started wearing reading glasses in my 50s, but that felt like a rite of passage. Nothing more than a small badge of wisdom earned with each passing year. But growing older changes things, often so gradually you barely notice until one day the world feels off. It wasn't just about holding the morning paper farther away or squinting at a recipe card in the kitchen light. The first sign for me came one winter evening when I got up in the middle of the night, not wanting to wake my husband with a lamp. The house was quiet and soft with shadows, the hallway familiar as the back of my hand. Yet as I tiptoed towards the bathroom, the edge of a rug melted into the darkness, and suddenly I was stumbling, landing hard on my knee. My heart pounded as I sat on the cold tile floor, half embarrassed, half in shock at how easily it had happened. The bruise faded in a week, but the memory lingered. I caught myself feeling nervous at night, reaching for walls in dim light, or hesitating before taking the basement steps. I told myself it was nothing, just a fluke. But then little things began to add up. I'd miss the first step of the porch, or reach for a cup and graze it instead, sending it clattering to the floor. My confidence took a hit. I started to wonder, was I simply getting clumsier with age? It wasn't until lunch with my friend Clara, who's never shy with her opinions, that I confessed my fears. She listened, then nodded. You know, eyesight changes more than we think as we get older. It's not just reading glasses, there's depth perception, glare, and even how we see the contrast. My eye doctor told me most seniors don't realize what they're missing until they fall. Her words stung because they were true. That afternoon, I made an appointment with my optometrist. It had been years, longer than I wanted to admit, since my last visit. I expected a new prescription, maybe a suggestion for brighter lighting. Instead, I learned just how much had shifted since my 50s. My peripheral vision had narrowed a bit, my depth perception wasn't as sharp, and there was even a hint of cataract clouding that hadn't bothered me much, until now. The doctor explained how these subtle changes affect everything. How we judge the distance of a curb, notice a wrinkle in a rug, or adapt our eyes from bright daylight to evening shadows. It was like a light bulb flickering in my mind. All at once, those tiny stumbles and near misses made sense. With new lenses, ones with anti-glare for driving at night and a gentle amber tint for better indoor contrast, my world shifted back into focus. Suddenly, I could see the lines on the porch steps, the pattern on the rug, and the shimmer of spilled water on the kitchen floor. It was a simple change, but it gave me a sense of control I hadn't felt in months. Still, I had to adjust my habits, too. I used to pride myself on being thrifty, keeping lights low to save on the electric bill, or skipping a lamp in the hallway at night. But I realized that good lighting is as important as good shoes. I added motion sensor nightlights to the bathroom and hallways, bright bulbs to the kitchen and staircase, and made sure my reading lamp was always within reach. I cleaned my glasses every day, something I'd rarely bothered with before, and set a reminder for myself to get my eyes checked every year, just as I would with my blood pressure or cholesterol. There's a special kind of frustration that comes with losing something you once took for granted, especially when it feels like another piece of independence slipping away. However, I learned that ignoring vision changes is not just about being unable to enjoy a crossword puzzle or drive after dark. It's about safety, dignity, and being able to trust your senses. A small blur in the corner of your eye can mean the difference between stepping confidently off a curb or falling to the pavement. Missing a dark spot in the hallway might turn a simple walk to the bathroom into a trip to the emergency room. I spoke to others in my community, and their stories echoed my own. Margaret, who had cataract surgery, marveled at the miracle of seeing colors again. Louise realized she was bumping into furniture not because her memory was failing, but because her peripheral vision had quietly shrunk. Bill confessed that night driving made him nervous now, even though he'd always been the family chauffeur. What struck me most was how many of us simply put up with it, telling ourselves it's nothing, that we're just getting old. But the truth is that vision changes can be managed. They can be improved, or at the very least, accommodated with a little extra care. Our world doesn't have to shrink just because our eyesight changes. I remember reading a story about a woman who started painting again after she got new glasses, saying it was like having her old life handed back to her. That image stuck with me. The idea that sometimes the simplest changes restore the brightest parts of ourselves. I want to gently urge you, if you've noticed the world getting dimmer or more confusing, don't ignore it. Don't wait until a close call wakes you up, as I did. Make the call, see your eye doctor, and update your prescription. If you already wear glasses, check for scratches or loose frames, and keep them clean and well fitted. If lighting in your home is low, brighten it up. And don't be shy about asking for help or advice. Sometimes, one conversation can change everything. Most of all, don't be ashamed. There's no weakness in needing support, whether it's glasses, extra lighting, or a friend's steady arm. You deserve to see the beauty in your days, the faces of those you love, and the little joys that make life sweet. We've spent a lifetime looking after others. Now it's time to look after ourselves, too. Each time I slip on my glasses and see the world a bit more clearly, I remember how precious it is to feel secure in my steps. Ignoring vision changes is easy, but taking action is what keeps us safe, steady, and free. And that, to me, is a vision worth holding on to. 4. Not paying attention to medication side effects. I've always trusted my doctors. After all, they're the ones who've seen me through everything from sprained ankles and stubborn colds to raising 3 children and worrying through every flu season. I sat in their quiet, chilly exam rooms and nodded dutifully as they handed me prescriptions, never really questioning what each little pill might mean for my daily life. For decades, medicine felt like an invisible shield, something I could rely on to keep me moving, keep me strong, and let me keep doing all the things I love. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. But over time, my medicine cabinet filled up, little by little. First, there was the blood pressure tablet I started after turning 65, then something for cholesterol, a pill for bone density, a vitamin D supplement, and a tiny white tablet to help me sleep through restless nights. Some days, I felt like a magician juggling all those pills, carefully organizing them in my weekly container, always double-checking before bedtime that I'd taken the right ones. I never really stopped to wonder how they might be working together inside me, or if their combined effects could change with age. It was last spring when I first started feeling off. I'd be reading a book in my favorite chair when suddenly, the room would spin just a little like I'd been twirling with my grandkids in the backyard. I stood up from the couch and, for a moment, everything tilted. My heart would skip a beat. Sometimes, I'd steady myself on the armrest and just wait for it to pass. At first, I blamed dehydration or skipped meals. After all, I was busy. Other times, I shrugged it off as just getting older, that all-purpose excuse for anything strange. But the wobbles didn't stop. One day, I was walking down the hallway with a basket of laundry, and the world seemed to lurch sideways. I grabbed the wall and managed to stay upright, but the fear lingered long after the moment passed. I started worrying about stairs, about carrying things, about getting up too quickly. My confidence, always my quiet armor, started to wear thin. Then one evening, as I sat down with my tea, I noticed a small pamphlet tucked inside my new blood pressure prescription. I don't usually read those leaflets, there's so much fine print, and the language feels cold and technical. But that night, as the dizziness played tricks on my peace of mind, I reached for it and started to read. There it was, buried halfway through the page. May cause dizziness, lightheadedness, or loss of balance. My eyes widened. Suddenly, I wondered how many of my medications carried warnings like that, or what might happen when they mixed in ways neither I nor my doctor had fully considered. I thought of my friend Alice, who tripped on her front steps and broke her wrist last winter. She'd told me afterward, "It just happened so fast." I stood up, got dizzy, and the next thing I knew I was on the ground. At the time, I'd consoled her, but now I realized how close I'd come myself. For the first time in my life, I decided to bring all my bottles to my next doctor's appointment. When I told my doctor about my dizziness, she listened closely, her brow furrowing as I described my symptoms. I handed her my carefully written list, every pill, every vitamin, every supplement, even the over-the-counter ones I'd picked up at the pharmacy. She nodded as she read, occasionally making a note. "You know, sometimes as we age, our bodies process medicine differently," she said. "A dose that was fine at 50 can be too strong at 70. She adjusted one prescription, lowered another, and suggested I try taking a few pills at different times of the day to spread out their effects. Within days, the difference was remarkable. The dizziness faded, my energy returned, and my sense of balance grew steadier. I felt like myself again, with a new understanding of just how complex and powerful those tiny pills can be. I learned to watch for warning signs, feeling unsteady, confused, overly sleepy, or even just not quite right. I started keeping a little journal, jotting down anything unusual, so I'd have something to share with my doctor if needed. The truth is, I'd spent years thinking I was being good by following instructions and never asking too many questions. I didn't want to seem like a bother or a worrywart, but now I see it differently. Our health is a partnership, and no one knows my body like I do. It's not complaining to ask questions. It's wisdom. It's self-respect. I shared my story at our next church gathering, and it was like opening the floodgates. Friends nodded in recognition. Stories poured out about a sleeping pill that left someone groggy for hours or a new medication that made a friend's heart race. Some had fallen, others had come close. A few had gone back to their doctors and found, just as I had, that a simple adjustment made all the difference. We live in an age of miracles, with medications that can ease pain, lower risk, and add years to our lives. But every blessing carries its risks, and as our bodies change, so must our approach. Now, before starting anything new, I ask about side effects, especially dizziness, drowsiness, or anything that could throw off my sense of balance. I check in with my pharmacist, too. They know which drugs might not play well together. And most importantly, I don't keep my worries to myself. If something feels wrong, I speak up. If I feel strange after starting a new pill, I call my doctor. If my head spins or my legs feel weak, I take it seriously. I write it down and make sure someone else knows, too. My daughter, my neighbor, a friend. We're not meant to carry these burdens alone. My independence means everything to me. I want to walk through my garden, dance at my granddaughter's wedding, and climb the library steps for years to come. I've learned that protecting my balance is about more than strong legs or careful steps. It's about knowing what I put in my body and how it makes me feel. So if your medicine cabinet is as full as mine, I hope you'll take a moment to check in with yourself, with your doctor, with someone you trust. Ask questions, read the labels, and listen to what your body is telling you. A few minutes of attention can mean the difference between a close call and a new lease on life. And always remember, you have a right to feel steady, safe, and strong. Pay attention, ask for help, and honor your body's whispers. In the end, it's those little moments of care that help us hold on to everything we cherish. 5. Holding on to furniture instead of using a cane or walker. For the longest time, I was proud of how I managed just fine without any extra help. I could walk from my bedroom to the kitchen, carry laundry baskets, and even climb the stairs without batting an eye. I told myself that relying on furniture for balance was just a normal part of life, grabbing the back of a chair here, steadying myself on the kitchen counter there. I called it wall walking, and in my mind, it was a clever way to keep my independence. After all, using a cane or a walker felt like admitting defeat. It felt like telling the world I was fragile, that I was less capable than I used to be. I didn't want to be that woman. There's something about that first step to using a cane that feels like crossing a threshold. A shift not just in your body but in your heart. I was scared of what it might mean, and how it might change how others saw me. Would my friends treat me differently? Would my family worry more? Most of all, I worried about how I'd feel looking back at myself in the mirror, suddenly someone who needed a walking stick. It was a loss I wasn't ready to face. But life has a way of humbling us. Mine came on a quiet afternoon, just as I was carrying a basket of folded laundry across the living room. My hands were full, my mind was elsewhere, and the familiar wall-walking strategy wasn't an option. I took a step, felt a sudden unsteadiness, and nearly crashed into the side table. My heart pounded, and a cold wave of fear swept over me. That moment shook me to my core. I realized I had been relying on a safety net that wasn't always there. I started to think about all the times I'd brushed off that nagging feeling in my legs or ignored the little stumbles. I remembered my neighbor, Helen, who had fallen in her kitchen last year. She'd been holding onto a chair, just like me, when she slipped and broke her wrist. The hospital stay, the recovery, the loss of independence, it was all too real. I knew I didn't want to follow that path. So, reluctantly, I decided to face my fears and try a cane. I was surprised at how many beautiful, lightweight, and even stylish options there were. I picked one with a floral pattern, something that felt cheerful and a bit like me. The first time I took it out of the closet and gripped its handle, I felt a strange mix of relief and vulnerability. But more than that, I felt a spark of hope. Using a cane wasn't giving up, it was gaining support, confidence, and freedom. Suddenly, I could walk taller without gripping furniture for dear life. My steps were steadier, and I wasn't constantly reaching or leaning to keep balance. I found myself able to enjoy short walks around the neighborhood again, even with a little spring in my step. The cane became an extension of me, a trusted companion rather than a symbol of weakness. There were days when I felt self-conscious, sure. I noticed the curious looks from strangers or the gentle questions from friends. But I also noticed something else: respect. People admired my courage to take care of myself and to prioritize safety without shame. My family felt less worried, and I felt less afraid. I realized that using a cane wasn't about surrender. It was about smart choices and loving myself enough to ask for help when I needed it. I also learned that many women I admired, strong, independent women who had lived rich and full lives, used canes or walkers. It didn't diminish their strength. If anything, it highlighted their wisdom. They weren't afraid to adapt, to change, to protect themselves. And neither should I be. If you find yourself holding onto furniture more often than you'd like to admit, I want to gently encourage you to consider a cane or walker. It might feel like a big step, because it is, but it's a step towards safety and freedom. Imagine walking without fear of slipping or falling. Imagine the peace of mind knowing you have support wherever you go. You deserve that peace. You deserve to move through your days with confidence, grace, and joy. Choosing a cane or walker doesn't take away your independence. It gives it back to you. It means you're strong enough to recognize your needs and wise enough to meet them. Take it from someone who's been there. The moment you stop leaning on furniture and start using the right support, your world changes. You stand taller, breathe easier, and live fuller. And most importantly, you honor yourself with the kindness and care you deserve. 6. Avoiding balance exercises. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. If you had asked me a few years ago whether I did any balance exercises, I would have laughed and said, "Balance exercises? Isn't that just stretching or yoga stuff for the flexible?" Honestly, I thought balance was something you just had, or lost naturally as you got older. It felt like one of those mysterious things that happened to other people, not me. I kept busy, walking my dog around the block, doing chores in the house, and living life at a comfortable pace. Why would I need special exercises just for balance? But the truth is, balance isn't something you can take for granted. It's a skill, a muscle memory, something your body learns and practices, or forgets if left unused. For years, I ignored that gentle warning inside me, the slight wobble here, the hesitation there. I thought it was just a part of aging and that as long as I stayed active in my daily routines, I'd be fine. But one afternoon, I found myself gripping the kitchen counter tightly as I reached for a can on the top shelf. My legs felt shaky, my feet unsure, and my heart raced with a fear I hadn't expected. That moment was a wake-up call. I realized I hadn't been doing anything to train my balance, to strengthen those tiny muscles and nerves that help us stay steady and upright. I had been relying on habit and hope, and it wasn't enough. It wasn't until I joined a local senior wellness class that I truly understood how important balance exercises are. The instructor, a lively woman in her 70s, led us through simple movements. Standing on one foot, shifting weight from side to side, walking heel to toe in a straight line. I thought it would be easy, maybe even a bit boring, but it was surprisingly challenging. My ankles felt weak, my posture wobbly, and my confidence shaky. But as the weeks passed, something remarkable happened. I began to feel stronger, steadier, and more connected to my body. Balance exercises don't need fancy equipment or long hours at the gym. 5 to 10 minutes a day, done consistently, can make a huge difference. You don't have to be a gymnast or a yogi. Even simple moves you can do at home, like standing on one foot while brushing your teeth or slowly walking in a straight line, help your body relearn how to stay steady. One of the most beautiful things I discovered is that balance can improve at any age, even in our 70s, 80s, or beyond. Our bodies have an incredible ability to adapt and grow stronger if we give them the chance. It's never too late to start, and every little bit counts. Since I started incorporating these exercises into my routine, I feel less afraid of stepping off curbs or walking on uneven ground. I even started dancing again in my kitchen, something I hadn't done in years. The joy of moving without fear, the freedom of standing tall and steady, is something I wish every woman could experience. If you've been avoiding balance exercises because they seem difficult or unnecessary, I want to encourage you to try. Start small. Find a class, a video, or even a friend to practice with. Make it part of your daily routine, like brushing your teeth. Your body will thank you with steadier steps, fewer stumbles, and a renewed sense of independence. Remember, balance isn't just physical, it's emotional, too. Building it strengthens your confidence, your courage, and your ability to face each day with grace. You deserve to live your life free from fear, steady on your feet, and full of joy. So take that first step today. Your future self will thank you. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. I hope these stories and insights about balance have resonated with you as much as they have with me. It's easy to overlook the small signs, to push aside those little moments of unsteadiness or forgetfulness, but they matter. They remind us that our bodies need care, respect, and a little extra attention as we age. You're not alone in this. So many of us face these challenges, often in silence. But here's the truth. You have the power to change your path. By noticing these 6 hidden mistakes, and by choosing to take simple, thoughtful steps, you're already moving toward a safer, stronger, and more confident life. I'd love to hear from you. Which of these surprises hit home? What's one thing you feel ready to try or change? Sharing your story not only helps you but can inspire others walking the same path. Please leave a comment below. Let's create a community of support and encouragement. Remember, you deserve to live with grace, independence, and joy. Every step you take toward better balance is a step toward a fuller, richer life. If this video helped you, please like, share it with friends and family, and subscribe for more heartfelt advice and practical tips tailored just for you. Take care of yourself. You are worth every effort and every moment of care. Your future self will thank you for the love and attention you give today.